Welcome to the replay and welcome tea family. I am excited to have you here and I am super excited to be back on Facebook for my live instead of having to figure out all the different things on YouTube. Now, I will take my lives and I will post them on YouTube, so if you miss them here, although they get posted here as well, you can see them on YouTube still, so that will still happen. But I much prefer the ease of just broadcasting live on Facebook. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And as always, if you have any questions at all, throw them in the chat. Post your comment. My handy dandy assistant will help. You can't see him waving to you, but he is over there and he did wave and he will help me answer them all. So I can't monitor as much now. Feel free to share, say hello, or even just simply post what you're drinking for tea, if you're drinking a tea right now. Now, we are going to start off with something really cool. Last weekend, I believe it was, we were at an event, obviously, we talked about that, and we got asked, and I think I've been even asked online before, how can I tell how hot my tea is if I don't have one of these kind of electric tea kettles where I can just set it, green tea, white tea, black tea, etc. And I said that I would answer that question. I gave them a couple of things to look for, but what I'm going to do today is we're actually going to go through the stages as we progress. So I'm going to get this started, and I'm going to start it as a boil. And right here, you'll see there's nothing going on. Now you'll see a little condensation up above. That is because I made a tea for my handy dandy assistant to steal so he doesn't steal what I'm going to make today, because I'm going to actually be making a latte. I told you we were going to do something a little bit different. We're going to make a latte here together today. So, as you can see, we've got nothing. We can hear it coming. So, we're going to be answering all your questions today. I do have some questions that have been asked, and that is cool, but I am always happy to answer any live questions. And okay. Lady Gray in your ladybug mug. That's awesome. And definitely sounds delicious. Now, if you can tell, I'm trying to see if the light will allow. Right here, you see how you see there's tiny little bubbles coming up on the bottom? When these tiny bubbles start to come up a little bit, this is when our tea is like around 155 to 160 degrees. So that is really good for any super, super delicate teas. Those are going to be super fragile teas. And then you're going to see those get bigger. Now, I have seen this where they talk about different size bubbles that have to do with different fish and seafood type sea creatures. But I'm not as familiar with sea creatures. I did grow up along the Atlantic Ocean coast. I did go to the beach a lot, and it was always the Atlantic, so it was always very, very cold up north in the New England area. However, I typically tried to avoid things like crabs and fish and different things like that. They could stay on their part of the ocean, I could stay on mine. But, okay, and now you'll see a little bit better. You see kind of those little bubbles dancing. This is officially at about 160 degrees. Now you got to give or take about 5 degrees because we are estimating here. Now, do you see how you're kind of getting... Alright, so if I was opening this, I'm going to open it. You see how you see that steam coming out of the top? Once you get steam coming out that is visible, that now you can see. Wait, let me come off for a second. It's going too fast! Okay. The steam, when that steam first starts, that's about 170 to 180 degrees. So you are good for a white tea or a green tea at that point. Okay. When you get this right here, this is perfect. You see these strings of bubbles coming up? Okay, it's going to start to intensify now. Strings of bubbles mean we're roughly right around, turn it back on. we're roughly around 200 degrees. And it's not going to come to that rip-roaring boil, but we all know that when it comes to the rip-roaring boil, we're about 210 to 212 degrees. So that is how you can just watch your tea and kind of be able to figure out where you are temperature-wise. Okay, so today, my handy-dandy assistant will get me the one thing I forgot, which is a infuser. Today, I am going to be making Serene Sunrise Latte. And that is because I have been drinking, oh, look at that effect of the sun. Isn't that fun? Serene Sunrise.
Well, let's do it. You won't want the handle on it.
No, this will be fine. And this is a huge mug. This is not a tiny one. And let's look at what our Serene Sunrise looks like. So remember... There you go. I'm actually going to pull this down because that's boiling hot right there. Okay. There we go. I have been drinking green teas all over the weekend. Yeah, I won't be able to pull this out of here, so he got me this one. This is what we always tell people, just get a little screen like this. But anyway, Serene Sunrise, it's my favorite. I have been drinking pretty much Emerald's Garden all weekend long, so I'm kind of in the mood for a black tea. All right. Now this is going to be a little bit more than normal because I am making a latte, and this is a really big cup. Remember, 1 teaspoon is for about 6 to 8 ounces of water. This is easily twice that. So, Jade chai, you know, I could have continued with, I could have made this with Jade chai. I just wanted some black tea. I've been drinking the green tea the whole time. So now, we're going to pour this over. Let me know in the comments, okay, if you think that was interesting with regard to watching the bubbles and figuring out about the temperature of the tea. But you saw how quickly it went from one temperature to another to another. I just figured that was a really easy way. Now I know you can't do that in a traditional kettle that's, you know, colored or that you can't see into. However, if you're just boiling a pan of water, that's another good way to boil water for tea if you needed to.
Did you start for 3 minutes?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Stephanie also is drinking Starlight Pear.
Starlight Pear is another good one. Another good one. All right. Stopwatch. No, timer. All right, we're going to set the timer like we always do. Okay, so I wanted to do this. Now, what am I going to do while this is brewing? Well, I'm going to go ahead. I won this. Okay, so if you know me well, you know I typically don't win anything ever. And so it was super surprising. I went on a friend's event, went to their event, and I actually won this amazing little pitcher. It is ceramic that her friend made, and it's completely glazed inside and out. I love it. So what I'm going to do, this is heavy cream, because that's what we have right now. We've been making some hotter beverages. The weather turned cold here in Kansas again because it can never make up its mind once we come to spring. But I'm going to just put a little bit in the bottom. And I'm using that. Now we use, we actually can wave to our cows because we live right near where they are. So when I do this, I always start on low first. I'm going to shut it off for a second.
Diane drank all of her Starlight Pear.
There we go. And this is just a little battery. This one is actually USB chargeable. So we charged it up, and it's just a frother. We're going to actually add some, the milk is pretty warm. And, oh, there we go. And then once I get it in here, I am going to up the speed and make my froth while I am at the same time making my tea. So you're going to want to brew your tea, but that's also a perfect time to froth your milk. Now this is going to froth easier. a heavy cream, a whipping cream, a regular cream is going to whip much faster than, say, a skim milk or a soy milk or an oat milk or something like that. But they all have their perfect temperatures and their perfect things. Now, all right, almost done there. Now, one of the things that I did remember was a little dish to put this in, because typically what's going to happen is he's going to take, my handy dandy assistant's going to take this over to the kitchen, which is right over there. And then what he's going to do is he's going to brew his own batch, because I'm not going to let him steal my latte today. That's how it is. All right. Oh, look. And there we are. We're done. Now, this is all set.
Nice color tea.
Isn't that a beautiful color? It really is. Now, this is the point in time you're going to want to sweeten your latte, if you're going to sweeten it at all. I'm going to, for the sake of ease, add my stevia to it. And the reason why I add it here is because I want to just put my foam on top. Now, this is all done. Got a nice light color. As you can see, it is still pretty light, pretty translucent. Nice, typical lighter brown tea. And then I could do this where I've done it by a spoonful before, but I thought this time I would just kind of pour. Now, if the foam is at 140 degrees, they can make all those super, super fancy creations and artwork on the top.
The foam?
With the foam, they can do some amazing things. There's a coffee shop where Our Lady's Bible Study meets, and they can do just amazing designs on the foam. So as you can see, the milk just gradually gets added in to the latte, and that's it. That's all you had to do. It's super easy.
You get a milk mustache.
And it's super delicious. Okay. So that's what I wanted to do. There's us. We're making a latte. We're going to answer questions today. Again, just put them in the comments. Hook them back to Facebook where it's easy to do comments again. All right. So I'm going to put this aside. And I am going to, oh, I forgot the last bit. Now, I did forget one thing. Forgive me. This is ground cinnamon. So when we actually crush the cinnamon sticks ourselves for our teas, like in Serene Sunrise, that's why you saw, there we are, you see chunks. A couple pieces fell into the computer. We'll grab that later. But we chunk that down ourselves. We take that ground cinnamon that we're left over with, and I've got it right here. Now I'm going to just sprinkle that on top. Just a little extra burst of cinnamon. But I know I've told you before that if you happen to squirrel away some mocha mint, like this, you know that mocha mint is crushed cacao, organic, non-GMO cacao, and peppermint. So you could crush this up a little bit, and I could sprinkle this on, and it'll give it a little bit of a chocolate and mint flavor to my latte. Don't be afraid to do that. Or you could have added a little bit of this tea in with the Serene Sunrise. That is a blend that I will say that you can do, not some of the ones that you might have seen people comment on mixing teas earlier or last weekend for those that were joined us at the event. And then look at that, doesn't it? And now you see it's nice and light.
What about a couple drops of vanilla?
You could add a couple of drops of vanilla in there, a vanilla extract. That's why lattes are amazing for black teas, because you can do anything from like a cinnamon vanilla to really go into the peppermint and the chocolate phases. One of the best ones to make, and I had to make a decision, I just hadn't had my favorite in a while, was to make onyx chai latte. Because then you're going to get so many amazing flavors. But yes, yum. I agree, Stephanie. Not only could you add a couple of drops of like a vanilla extract or a vanilla simple syrup that you've created, you could also, if you had vanilla beans. People who make ice cream, I mean, we use our vanilla beans to make vanilla extract for our business. And then also we let them dry out a little bit, and then we will add them to our teas to get that vanilla flavor, like in our double spring leap tea that we do every 4 years for Leap Year's Day, that has actual vanilla beans that have been cut very, very, very tiny pieces. That would be perfect on top too, just to get that little bit of vanilla. There's so many things, and that's one of the wonderful things about tea is we could all have Serene Sunrise blend, or we could all have a Jade Chai blend like Stephanie's drinking, or a lavender Earl Grey similar to what Diana's drinking today. And then we could make it a little bit different. One could add this and one could add that. And that's one of the things I love about tea. There's so many different flavors and things that you can do with it. So let's get to some things. And I did talk about this. So I talked about the mocha mint. And what I will tell you is that I am going to be giving away at least 1 ounce, possibly 2 ounces of mocha mint next week at our live sale. Now that will be this Friday, and I know there's a Facebook event, but it will be live on Facebook on our main page. And mocha mint is one of the ones I have a couple left over from February around Valentine's Day that I would like to have everybody be able to enjoy. So I will be doing giveaways, so you may want to put that event on your calendar so you don't miss out. You cannot buy mocha mint right now, but you might be able to win some free. Not bad at all. Okay, so I have your chocolate extract. Maybe I'll try that in my latte. Yep. Stephanie, that would be perfect to get that chocolate flavor. A drop or two is all you'll need. You only need a drop or two, and I would actually put the drop or two in the bottom of your glass first. Put a drop or two of your chocolate extract or your vanilla extract or whatever extract, then add the tea and the boiling water or the heated water, and let it brew, because that's going to allow the rest of the alcohol to, here. You can have this one.
Oh, I thank you.
I was ahead before he stole it this time. Add the drops and extracts, then brew your tea in it, and it'll diffuse the flavor and it'll burn off the alcohol, so you will be able to enjoy it more.
Thank you.
Okay, now, next thing I wanted to talk about is, there's so much to talk about today. I was preparing for this one and there was like so much. Okay, it's time to bring out the tablet, because I wanted to talk about a couple of questions that we got. First of all, hands off, handy dandy helper. That's right. Absolutely, hands off. So, what did you think? I put a reel out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about people being so surprised that green tea is green, or green tea was green. And I talked about emerald garden, and that just like still every time I think about it stumps me, and I kind of shake my head and like, it should be. Now, keep in mind that green tea is going to be on a scale. For instance, Starlight Pear has apples and pears and green tea in it. So it's going to be on the lighter side of green and might have some of the yellow from the pears and the apples in there. And if you had a really dark green that had other things like a Jade Chai, that green is going to be a darker green because you're adding other ingredients into it. But a straight green tea blend should give you about a medium colored green. But if you are drinking a green tea of any kind, unless there is an ingredient that is going to make it change color, for instance, butterfly pea flower will change color, or if you have blueberries in there, or a lot of strawberries or raspberries or something like that, unless you add something into it that will change the color, it should be on the green spectrum. And if you have a straight green tea blend with nothing else in it, and it is not green when you pour that cup, I would not recommend drinking it, because green tea should be green. But anyway, if anybody was interested in that, I'm still shocked by it. But we did get a couple of questions this week, and one that I wanted to talk about is having to do with green tea. So many times we'll go to an event, or we'll go to a community market or a farmer's market or something like that, and we offer our tea there, and we'll do free samples. Well, it's not uncommon. It's right here. It's not uncommon. I thought he was trying to steal my latte again. It's really not uncommon for us to make a green tea, a black tea, and an herbal tea, one that's completely caffeine free. And so we always have fun picking which teas we're going to do. We did Emerald Garden at the Tulip Festival in Wamego last weekend, and we also did that this weekend because I was just really enjoying the green tea. The weekend before that, when we were at an event in Abilene, we did Harmony, which is a very lighter, remember, that's a green tea that has strawberries and orange and green tea mixture in there. And people get concerned when they have a green tea and they brew it, or they do a cold brew. And either way, they let it cool off. So they're going to want to drink it iced. We'll call it an iced tea. And especially the greens, and they're like, it starts to get cloudy, but it's been in my fridge. Is it still good? Is there something wrong? No, that is actually a good thing for it to get slightly cloudy the next day or later that day after you brewed it and cooled it. And then I'm going to say that is because the polyphenol, that's not the word, I'm not saying it right, polyphenols, aka the antioxidants, which is much easier for me to say tonight, meds are wearing off from my migraine earlier, so those antioxidants, when they kind of meet up and match up with any minerals there might be in your water, that is what causes it to become somewhat cloudy. It should still look primarily clear, but with a little cloud to it, not crystal clear like sometimes you'll see some of our teas. That is okay. It is a sign that is a really good tea. It is a sign that you are using water that has a lot of minerals in it. That's it. No worries. Our teas typically aren't going to be as cloudy when we brew them for the free samples because we use water that doesn't have all the minerals in it. And we've talked about that before, how that water that you use really matters. Here's one of the instances is how clear your tea is really dependent upon two factors for those iced teas. Number one, it is a factor of how many minerals are in the water, and number two, how many antioxidants or polyphenols are in your tea. How natural is it? How healthy is it? And that's one of the times when cloudy is not necessarily a bad thing if you're drinking it and it has a lot of minerals in your water. Now, I did talk very specifically about green teas. Can this happen with other teas? Absolutely. This still is going to have a similar effect with black teas, with oolongs, with white teas, with black, green, all those that actually have the Camellia sinensis plant in it. So keep that in mind. Just because it's a little cloudy doesn't mean it's all off. And if you see here, here's my latte after a little bit, and you can see that that foam has just slowly mixed in to my tea, making it all a very delicious milk tea latte for me.
What's that?
With a nice cinnamon on top. Now, again, we all know I don't like things super sweet. I added just a little bit of stevia to that because it's such a big mug. There was no sugar in the milk foam that I did or anything like that. Doesn't need it. I get to enjoy the taste of the tea, the creaminess of the milk, a little bite of the smoothness of the cinnamon. Awesome. Let's see. Okay. This is one that I swear I have on repeat, but I get the question all the time. And that is, how many cups of tea can you make with 1 ounce? And here's where I'm always like, well, it depends. We say there's 10 to 11 first-time brews. But there's a couple of factors in that. I don't know exactly how many. So, this is the teacup that I've been using. It's got a little tag on it if you see. And it says Latte because my handy-dandy assistant and I are trying to learn Italian. However, so this is going to be, I think this is like a 7-ounce teacup that we have here. And it's a pretty average sized teacup. They're between 6 and 8 ounces. So this is what I'm talking about. And if it is a traditional, black or green tea, you're typically going to have 2.5 grams or about a teaspoon. Now this is not a measuring teaspoon's worth. This is a teaspoon's worth. Keep that in mind. We've talked about that before too. However, this is way bigger. Not only, it's those are the difference between that, and how deep it is and how wide it is. There's so much. This is like twice this. So I'm going to have 10 to 11 of first-time brews with this cup per 1 ounce of tea. Now, I say 10 to 11. Sometimes you want it a little stronger. Sometimes you want it a little weaker. I made this a little stronger because, first of all, it's a bigger cup. Second of all, I knew I was going to be adding the milk from the latte, and I wanted it to be a slightly stronger brew. But that's what it is. It's 10 to 11 first-time brews. And then it depends. All but 3 of our tea blends, which are the 2 that have chamomile and the 1 nautical twilight, which has now been dropped to my handy-dandy assistant's second favorite tea blend. Those 3 can only be brewed twice. So in those 3 particular blends, you'll get 20 to 22 cups. Whereas all the rest of them, for the black teas and the green teas and the ruby chai and so many others, you'll get 3 brews out of each one at least. And that way you're talking 30 to 33 cups of this kind of cup in 1 ounce of tea. Now, I say that. The other thing is, if you've ever seen any of the packages, we have these kind of standard packages. They're about this size. We have some bigger ones because chamomile is lighter and it has a higher volume. And so I always let you know, that one you're going to want about a tablespoon. And that one's going to be about a measured tablespoon per 6 to 8 ounce cup, things like that. But that's why it's in the bigger bag, so it'll all equal out. But that is a question we get all the time. The other thing is, I wanted to show you that we now have available, and let you know, lemon zinger. And this was, oh my gosh, I just opened up the jar we make it in, and all I can smell is the sweetness of lemon coming out. So I did bring some. It is a green tea. It is lemon.
I can smell it.
It is lemongrass. And it has a little ginger in it. And what I'm telling you is this one is so potent to the nose, and it is so delightful. And it's always hard to figure out how to hold this so you can see, but that's what it looks like. And what I will tell you is last week we completely sold out on Saturday and then had to make more, and then we made more, and now we only have 2 ounces left, although we're in the process of making more. So I want to let you know that's one of our limited time blends that is only available for a few months, unless it becomes super, super popular, like our Jade Chai did, and then it would get into our regular roundup of things. But that's it. Again, lemon zinger. No, you do not get more cups of tea if you put your pinky out when drinking tea. And I don't know if I do it or not. I hope I don't, because it is actually not proper to put your pinky out. That is a fallacy. It is not proper to put your pinky out when you're enjoying a cup of tea.
I remember that left pinky looked like we wanted to go out.
So, I mean, I know it's very traditional and Americans think it's very upper class. It is not. That's not how it's done. So,
Okay.
Another question we got asked is to compare those store-bought tea bags that we all know I am not a fan of because they're super bitter and super high in tannins. But do you have to brew those for less time than a loose leaf tea, like Serene Sunrise? So if I had an English breakfast and I had a English breakfast supermarket, insert popular name of tea that everybody loves, that is in the packaged little paper baggy things that I recommend against because they're so bitter and poor quality. Yes, you have to brew those a lot less because they're so packed with tannins and tannic acid and everything like that. You do not want to brew those for the full 3 minutes. That would be extraordinarily bitter. Loose leaf tea, because you want to allow the tea to unfurl, to rehydrate, and allow full flavor. That is why the brew times are a little bit different.
Another question.
So, good question. The items in the lemon zinger. So the tea base is a Japanese green tea. It also has obviously everything's organic and non-GMO, ginger, lemon zest, and lemongrass. That is what it is. And I will be happy to show you that again. My whole house is going to now smell of citrus with some green tea undertones and a little bit of ginger. But it is a very poignant and potent lemon flavor. When you open it up, you smell lemon. Now, it does mute, the lemon part does mute a little bit as you brew it, because then the flavors of like the lemongrass and the ginger and the green tea can balance it off. But it is very potent. Like that, you could smell it across we had a 10 by 10 tent, 10 feet by 10 feet, and if I open that up, people outside of the 10 foot by 10 foot tent could smell it, as well as the neighboring areas. It was very, very potent, and people loved that scent. It drew them in intensely. So
along with the chais too.
The chais too, that's another one. We typically like to bring a chai with us, typically the ruby chai, because it's a caffeine-free chai, and that is always super, super popular. We have to kind of decide if we're going to go with that one or if we're going to go with our Maiden's Blush, which is a rooibos and rose petal. That's the one that people who don't particularly normally enjoy tea will sometimes, we've got a good majority of them that actually try it and love it. It's not a flowery one. The rose petals add kind of a little hint of sweetness, and they smooth out the bite of the rooibos. And people always accuse us when we put Maiden's Blush out. We always tell them there's no sugars, there's no sweeteners, it's completely unsweet. And they're always like, are you sure there's not honey in this? And we're like, yes, we're really sure. But it tastes almost got a honey type sweetness to it between the rose petals and the rooibos. So
Definitely have a good answer for putting the teas in the cookie.
So how would we add lemon zinger into a cookie? Well, first of all, lemon tea cookies are one of my absolute favorite things. And one of the things that when my children were little would get requested a lot. And what I would typically do, because cookies don't typically have like a liquid component like a milk or a water or anything like that, is my lemon cookies will typically have a little bit of lemon juice in them. And what I would do is I would brew up like a cup of lemon zinger, and I would mix that with some lemon juice, and I use a pastry brush and I swoop that on the top after my cookies have baked. As soon as they come out of the oven while they're cooling, it has a sugar and lemon juice mixture, and I would just make that the sugar, lemon juice, and tea mixture, so that when you bite in, you're going to get a hint on your palate. You're going to get a hint of the ginger as well as the lemon that makes it the lemon tea cookie. The other thing that you could do is if you're making the cookie from scratch, as many of us do, is you could take and brew up some tea and make it a little stronger instead of doing like 6 ounce, a teaspoon, instead of 6 ounces, only do it like 1 or 2 ounces, and then, or brew a full cup and then you'll just have to drink 5. But I would add it in and then add a little bit more flour and sugar and butter and, kind of like only add enough, maybe not even an ounce, up to an ounce of that liquid into the cookie dough. Not so much that it's too wet, that's where I would add maybe a little bit more sugar or a little bit more flour into it just to get the right consistency for the cookies, but then the flavor is also going to work all the way through the cookie. So those would be the 2 ways I would do it. Thinking about it, we might just have to try that for the Mother's Day tea on Friday. I might have to make some lemon zinger lemon cookies, because the other thing I was thinking is if I made a little bit of the tea, sugar is considered a wet ingredient in cookies and in baking, and I could add the sugar to that 1 ounce and let it kind of sit, and that way I'm not really adding that much more liquid. So I'm going to play with that. We might be having some of that. We will be having rosemary scones. I will be having a dessert. I'm going to actually do up a whole tray. We're going to have some raspberry scones. No, it's not raspberry. Rosemary scones. We're going to have a couple of tea-based finger sandwich type of items, and we're going to have a dessert on the top. We're going to use our tiered tray, and this is a perfect thing. Thank you, Diane. I wanted to talk about. That was really loud. Made me jump. I wanted to talk about that next week. If you want the sample of tea if you want a sample of the tea that we are going to be using next week, and you want any of the recipes, I will need you to put a comment and we will get that sent out to you. But I need to make sure it is sent out by Monday, April 22nd. I would need to have it because I need to make sure it gets to you in time. And we all know the United States Postal Service does its best job, but sometimes things get delayed a little bit. So I want to make sure, ideally, let me know today and I will try and get that out to you tomorrow. Do I think mixing some of the tea into softened butter would work? Yes, you could probably do it that way. If you did the softened butter, I would probably add the tea in and then really mix it well and then put it in the fridge overnight. Let it set back up, and then the next day take it out, because that way it's going to really kind of have time to absorb in the butter and it'll have sat there for a while. That is another good possibility. So different things to work, different things to do. But if you want those recipes and if you want that sample, the recipes I can get you later on in the week, because I'm just going to message when you put them in here. I can message you and get them to you. But if you want the sample, I'm definitely going to need to know in advance. So there is that. All right. Speaking of next week, I talked about this. I talked about this mocha mint that I'll be giving away at least 1 ounce of, if not 2. This is one of the ones that is caffeine free, and it can be brewed multiple times, like 3 times. So keep that in mind. It's not available for purchase, but you might just win it.
What tea are they looking at next week?
What tea are we looking at next week?
What tea are you using next week?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to give that secret away yet. But I am going to give a different secret away right now. Are you ready? Okay. Look at this box. Isn't it so pretty? We found some amazing boxes and grabbed them up before they got taken out. All right. So, curious what's in there? I don't know. You tell me.
Black and white lines.
So this box, one of the things that's going to be going up next week is this box. And the reason why it doesn't have any tea in it is you can choose to put 2 1-ounce packages of tea in it or 4 half ounces. So you're going to create your own custom sampler set. So you can decide if you wanted to get 2 1-ounce packages, and they could be 2 different teas. You might want to go with Serene Sunrise and Emerald Garden. Or you might want to get 4 different ones that are a half ounce each. Now they could technically be all the same, but you can mix up to 4 of them, half ounces. So that's what you're going to create your own tea sampler. And you get this delightful box. One of the things I like about this box is that it folds flat. I love boxes that you can store and reuse. So, it's got a little magnetic thing on it. So, this is one of the items that will be going up next Friday, and it will be Friday. Now, what I'm going to tell you is we are going to be making a mocktail together while we're doing all this. We're going to be doing some other fun stuff too. We're going to be talking about tea pairings. We're going to have some special things that you can't get anywhere else or any other time else. I've talked about this, and I've been showing you some sneak previews. These are not items that will be going up on our website or be available for sale like your custom sampler set. That's not something that we will offer. However, we might be doing it from right here. We might be doing it at a different location. We've got some other surprises. But our mocktail that we are going to be making the tea can also be brewed hot for those of us that love a hot tea, no matter how hot the temperature may get outside. Is we are actually going to be using Earl's Lady, another tea that is not available. In fact, the Earl's Lady is only, thank you, Stephanie, I appreciate it. Earl's Lady is only available in our Advent tin for the 24 teas of Advent that we do. And it is also available in our 12 ornaments of Christmas. Those are the only 2 times that you can get that Earl's Lady blend. And so, if you like Earl's blend, and if you like a lavender Earl's blend, that Lady Gray kind of a blend, that's what we're going to be using as our base, and that's what we're going to be having, because that will match amazingly with so many different kinds of savory and sweet treats for our Mother's Day tea. So there you go. There's that. Other questions? Okay, let me see. Check my tablet again. I don't want to bang anything like I did last time. All right. We talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about brewing the tea, and we talked about cloudy. And that was what I had for questions, unless you have other questions for me. I think I'm looking around to see. Oh, I did have one other thing that I was going to show you. One more sneak peek. I have to be careful with this one. A deluxe tin of evening mint. A large spoon that is actually packaged up in its box right now that we'll take it out. A large spoon that is enough tea for 1 pot. And then this is the back side of this China teapot. And this is the front side of this gorgeous rose teapot. Perfect for Mother's Day. Perfect enjoyment. And if you look, this has a gold ring around it, which is why we thought it would pair perfectly with our deluxe gold tin. And so this is another item. This will be one of the 2 teapot items. There will be 2 items that include a teapot. This will be one of them that will be available next week. All right. Other questions? I tried to give you some time to get them in there. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Stephanie. I think it's beautiful too. I get to enjoy the teapots for a little bit, and then I give them away because otherwise they would take over my house. And that's not always the best. I do have to say that sometimes, it's right there, sometimes, I knew exactly which teapot he was going to, okay? I just knew it. I think I'm buying a teapot for the business. But then it just becomes mine, and this is one of them. When we went to do our first big event last September, when I say big event, multi-thousand people kind of event in Topeka, and somebody was getting rid of this Polish pottery teapot. And if you know me, you know that I have received as gifts over the course of my husband's military career, so well over 20 years, occasionally get a Polish pottery piece, and we found some ourselves in thrift shops and different things like that. And so I have a few very special Polish pottery pieces, and that is one of them. This is one of the ones that I added to my collection, and I absolutely love it. This is a huge one. This is a 10 to 12 cup. And there you can see it's actually true Polish pottery. But I love it. It is my favorite. It is not matching my other pattern, but it's close enough because it's the Polish pottery. How many teapots do I actually have? Now let me think.
Irish.
How many teapots do I have? Yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, and then maybe, okay, if we include the silver tea set that I got years and years ago, probably 7, but I don't really use that as a teapot. 6. And then I have 2 more downstairs that I really want to claim as mine, although I bought them with the intent of using them for the business. But right now it's a struggle to let them go yet. It happens, you know. The difference is I love Polish pottery too, Diane. I mean, it's amazing because the Polish pottery is just made so well. But yeah, when I saw this teapot, I couldn't resist it. And then what we got it for is nowhere near what it's worth. It is worth so much more, and we got an amazing deal on it. And yeah, so every once in a while I will go on one of those kind of places and enjoy a wonderful teapot like this. I have to say, my favorite teapot, I use all my teapots, and that was what I was about to say, is I actually use every single one of my teapots with the exception of the one that's silver, for obvious reasons. I use them regularly. It's anytime I'm going to be home or I'm going to work remotely from home during the day, I'm going to make a pot of tea and then drink off of that, as opposed to when I go into work, I typically have one of those. You've seen I have the glass, or I have a to-go cup with me. And so instead, you know, I'm brewing everything up by the cup. I love to make a teapot of tea and then pour it. And one of the best things about this one is it doesn't drip. There's no spilling, no dripping. So that is my favorite. All right. Any other questions? See, Stephanie, Polish pottery. How can you go wrong with Polish pottery? And when I realized they have all sorts of sizes of teapots, I had to resist. I couldn't resist that one, but now I have to not look for teapots. I mean, I guess it's not bad if I use them all the time, right? I just don't have a lot of space, and we are more not overcrowded with stuff. So, yeah, I think I'm at my limit. I think I'm at the point now, if I want one for me, I have to give up one of the other ones, and I'm not prepared to do that. But, all right, well, no more questions coming in. Thanks for your time. Welcome back to Facebook Lives as opposed to YouTube. And I will see everybody hopefully on Friday, if not before. And if you get more mugs. Don't tempt me. My favorite mug is Polish pottery, and I got it recently, and I love it. Just love it. It's my favorite. But I can only use it. In fact, I put this in one of my posts recently. I can only use it when I'm going to be home because it is not travel safe. And if you think I'm going to endanger my delightful Polish pottery bubble mug, this is the 18 or 16 or 17 ounce one. Might be 18 ounces. No, this is not going in the truck. This is not going anywhere other than being home. So that being said, I will see everybody hopefully on Friday. If not, if you have any questions or you want the recipes or the free sample, please just put it in the comments and we will get it out to you. All right, see everybody.